Okay, hi everybody. I was so happy and inspired to see the results of the poll that people were even interested in the Kabbalistic tree of life. Just so you know, this is not about religion. It touches obviously on Jewish Kabbalism and sort of a modern form of Jewish mysticism, I would call it, okay? That started probably I can't believe I'm saying that it's modern. It started in about 1926, but lots of people from all sorts of different countries got together to try to preserve some of the most important teachings of the Kabbalah. And even if you don't like, let's say you're even anti-Semitic, or you're Catholic, let's say you're a staunch Catholic, or even if you're an agnostic, you're going to find this interesting if you like tarot. And would you believe that Arthur Edward Waite, who created this deck, the traditional deck that I talk about, of course that was not the first tarot deck, by far it wasn't, but I call it the original deck because I like what he's done. He has taken all sorts of different symbols. He uses Egyptian mythology. He does use a lot of symbols from the Jewish tradition, I must say. But it is a lot of fun to know a little bit more about the Tree of Life because it makes you understand tarot a little better. I want to show you just a few places where it appears. Here is the Ten of Pentacles. Okay, Mercury in Virgo. And I want you to look at the placements of these circles. Okay, so that's exactly, these are exactly the 10 points or the 10 attributes of, and you can fill in whatever word you want to use. The divine, 10 attributes of God is what we normally say, but certainly with this, okay, so we're going to call it Jewish mysticism. They also call it Jewish theosophists, theosophia, okay? Theo meaning God, Sophia meaning wisdom. Anyway, so these 10 attributes, of these 10, I think probably the most important one is the one we're going to start with, which is Keter, which is spirit, okay? Just a little tiny break in the tape. So I'm just going to show you, let's see, 4 cards where pillars appear in tarot. Actually, these all happen to be major arcana cards. Let's start with the High Priestess. Do you see the pillars? One of them is black, one of them is white. Okay, that's very important. Do you see the pillars of Madam Justice? They're gray. Okay. Do you see the pillars that the Hierophant sits in the middle of? And there are pillars even in the Moon card. So you're going to understand in a moment why these pillars are so important. What you're going to discover is that the pillars, especially these pillars, the black pillar and the white pillar, these form a really important part of the Tree of Life, the energies anyway. And poor old Solomon, the original temple that he built in Jerusalem that was torn down, these are supposed to be representative of the pillars that existed, okay, in the original temple in Jerusalem. One was black and one was white, all right? All right, so I'm going to start explaining the Tree of Life with a little story, okay? And this is something that I actually saw. I was watching a judge giving a decision, and I was very familiar with the case and familiar with the accused, and I had empathy for the person who was being charged and she was giving her decision that day. And this judge was someone that came from a very wealthy background, a very conservative background. So I thought to myself, well, for sure she's going to throw him in the slammer. So when she began to read her decision, I noticed that her voice was shaking. And I thought to myself, why would her voice be shaking? She had been on the bench for years and years, and she was very, if not anything, a little bit haughty. Her voice was shaking because it turned out that she was acquitting this, what I'm sure she thought was the dregs of society. And when you look at the Justice card, I want you to look at the red robe. That is representative of courage. I want you to look at her sword. It's blue. That's representative of empathy. She was shaking because it took her courage. She knew it would be an unpopular. Sorry guys, I'm now using my laptop to charge up my phone. But as I said, this judge she was shaking because she knew what she was about to do was unpopular. She probably wouldn't be invited to the next wine and cheese or the next bridge game or whatever it was, but she knew it was the right thing to do. So the point of this card, and we're starting at the top of the tree of life, we're spirit, empathy, the astral, everything that is divine, the source of the divine, unconditional love is imported or injected into the tree of life. And that little square that is in Madam Justice's crown is representative of Keter, okay? Which is at the very top of the tree of life. I was going to draw, I'm terrible at drawing, but so the top circle is Keter, and I think of that as where spirit is injected down into the tree of life. Anyway, the point of the Justice card, the point of her having her sword, which normally is the sword that comes down and slices. It's supposed to be the logic, the harsh, reality. Her sword is blue. Do you see the blue? It is filled with spirit, with empathy. And all throughout the deck, when you notice blue, that is spirit, all right? Her scales are golden, okay? They're filled with the solar energy. The point of the card is that true justice involves empathy, okay? So that will be the top of the tree of life. We're going to call it spirit. It is where it is positioned. We're going to call this the first level, okay? There are 3 things on the first level. They call this the archetypal archetypes, okay, exist here. But frankly, there are 3 characters in the tarot deck that exist at this level, and they are the High Priestess, okay, who you can see the tree of life behind her. You see the pomegranates? Okay, and it's said that the aces, I often talk about the Ace of Cups. I want you to look at the cross on the chest of the High Priestess. Now this is that cross, okay, that's on her chest. It's also an ancient Greek symbol for fire, earth, air, and water. But it's also where spirit is considered to cut down between the material, okay? So you notice that her robe is blue, completely blue. The only 3, and I guess this is why they call them archetypes, the only 3, well, the top 3 important characters in the tarot deck my Aquarians are going to love this. Where did my Fool go? Where did he go? Anyway, here he is. Our 0, the Fool. Okay? He lies between Keter and something that we're going to talk about in a moment, Hakma. As you know, the High Priestess is at the top, near Keter, and the Magician, who lies between Keter and Bina. Okay? Now, let's talk about, just quickly, by the way, so when you see the Tree of Life, anything that represents the Tree of Life, you're supposed to picture the pillars coming down on this side, okay? The left, which really is my right now, but the left pillar is always black, okay? And on the original temple in Jerusalem, there was a word inscribed. I think it was Boah, B-O-A-H. And on the J was Jachin. So the white side is supposed to represent merciful forces, okay? Over here is power and might. And remember that the High Priestess is immovable between these forces. She is unmoved. She rules the moon. She is the daughter of borrowed light, as we know. You know, the moon is on her head. Okay, the moon is simply reflecting light from the sun, daughter of borrowed light. So the High Priestess is pretty darn important. Okay, remember, she doesn't speak. She knows everything, the past, the future. She knows about science, religion, philosophy, you name it, she knows it. She also holds the Torah, which I think you can see it's a scroll, and it's supposed to represent the original scroll, which has the 5 books of Moses written in it. Okay, a little break in the tape. Okay, and I was going to mention the Ace of Cups. I got distracted when I was talking about the cross. Do you see that cross there that the dove is dropping down into the cup? So the dove is injecting spirituality into that cup. So, and the water is blue, okay? This is, by the way, that is not a W. That was Arthur Edward Waite sort of fooling around to see if anyone could figure out what it was. It's supposed to be an M. You know, and this is a cup. He was obsessed with holy grails and where they were. And one of them was supposed to be hidden in this castle in Spain at Montsauvage. And he wanted everyone to turn the W upside down. It does really look like an M. Anyway, so what we have then, let's just move on to so we're still on the first level. So there are 3 important parts of the first level. We've already talked about Keter, spirit, okay? Now we're going to talk about Hakma. Now, what's interesting about this side, so I've gotten as far, where's my pen? So here we're going down the right side, okay? So this would be the white pillar. So they do sometimes call these 3, by the way, the Great Mother, the Great Father. Everything's backwards there. This is supposed to be the pillar of mercy, as you know, and this is the power and might down here. So I think of Hakma, although they say the aces are supposed to be up there with Keter, I think of it as Ace of Wandsish, because it's like a catalyst, an initial idea. It's a source of inspiration. It's like a seed of inspiration. And when I see the Ace of Wands, I think of Hakma. Okay? So it also involves wisdom, okay? And inspiration is the main thing. Wisdom, inspiration. All right. So let's talk about Bina. So Bina, we call that the number 3, the third. Well, it's on the first level, but it's number 3. When I think about this, a good way to remember what Bina is, I meant to put the 3 of Pentacles out, but I didn't. I can't believe I'm about to refer to a card outside of the traditional deck to explain Bina. The Witch's Tarot has a fantastic card for Bina, for the Three of Pentacles. My laptop is sitting on it. Anyway, it shows a man and he's sitting at a desk, okay? And he is working, okay? But what he's doing is he's developing an idea. He's organizing it. And as you know, the Three of Pentacles is Mars in Capricorn, okay? Because it's all very well to have a spark, to have an idea, but how do you organize it, okay? So it's funny because the threes, okay, all of the threes in tarot are said to be related to Bina. So Mars in Capricorn, Capricorn tends to organize things, analyze things. The Three of Pentacles in the Witch's Tarot is an excellent example of Bina. It's the organization of that inspirational idea, okay? All right, yeah. So in the middle somewhere, now some people leave this out. Some people leave out Keter, believe it or not, and put this one up there instead, is dot, and we actually spell it D-A''A'-T. Put simply, it's putting your attention on something, okay? Focus and attention. It allows us to get things done. So we've got the spirit, the inspiration, we've got the organizational, analytical skills, and then dot allows us to put attention on things. Basically, that is the first level, okay, of the Tree of Life. So then we move on to the second level, which we associate with the creative world. Sorry, my battery's getting low. Okay, turn on battery saver. So you probably heard many times, you probably heard me saying many times that the twos of anything, because before we leave this first level, you'll notice that a lot of this is intellectual, is in your head. The Two of Wands, for example, where the man has not yet taken action. The Two of Pentacles. So this is a decision, the Two of Wands, that's been made. Okay, so this would be associated with Chokmah. Okay, but this has not been put into action yet. You know, here we have someone who knows, now this is a stage card, okay, so this isn't going to go on for very long, but in his head he thinks that this can go on forever, okay? It can't. All of these are associated with the intellectual level. So when we get to the second level, we are talking about the world, okay? And a lot of these if you call them Jewish theosophists, or they will say that everything below the first level is emotional. I really don't agree with that, but anyway. So what is below Chokmah? We've got, it looks like Chesed, but they call it Hesed, okay? Now, the fours of anything are associated, with Hesed. I'm going to show you the Four of Wands, because when I think of the Four of Wands, I think of this level of the Tree of Life. So this is a very welcoming energy, okay? So basically, this part of the Tree of Life, I would just call it the power to love, okay? Real love, to be generous. This is an inviting card. Just think of the welcoming energy. Power to love, power to share. Okay, so I guess that is a bit emotional. Okay, now, how many times do we cringe when we get, I'm going to go over to the other side now of the Tree of Life over here. Do we cringe when we get the Five of anything in tarot? The Five of Swords, you know, somebody doing something unethical. The Five of Wands, you know, conflict and arguing. The Five of Cups, you know, loss and sorrow. The fives are severe. I consider them to be testers, Okay, so that part of the tree of life is called Gevura. Okay, I call it the tester. So it's right there. Okay, there's a lot of difficulty associated with this. The fives are necessary though. You know, I was going to get out the Five of Cups, but I think everybody gets depressed when they look at that card. But that's a good example of Gevura. Okay, that man stands there and he stands there in regret. You know, and at the point of the card is, you know, that he's looking back. In order to have good foresight, you have to look back, you know, and look at where you went wrong. So the fives of anything are associated with this. I call it the tester level. Okay, it's necessary, it's tough, but it's important that we can get through it. Okay, we're almost done. So on the last one on this second level, okay, is number 6, Tiferet. And it's positioned around about here, okay? I know everything is backwards, but so the sixes of anything. Beauty is associated with this. I always think of the Six of Cups, the soulmate card. But it's all, think of the giving in that card. Think of how the flowers are being given to the little girl. So it really focuses on the importance of being able to form relationships and be harmonious with each other. Okay? So we're going to move down to the third level now. One of my favorite points on the Tree of Life is Hod. Okay? That's associated with the 8 of anything. You know, when I think of that level of the Tree of Life, I always think of, believe it or not, the ball boy in a tennis match. Let's pretend it's Wimbledon, okay, and there's a famous tennis player, and the ball boy would be Hod, okay? It's humility, the ability to serve, being so respectful of someone that you're just happy to help. It's gratitude. It's giving of yourself. Okay, and it's being proud, being able to be proud of other people just to be in their company. Okay, so it's definitely an attribute that not everybody has, as you can see, as we're actually moving down the Tree of Life. But as you can see, I'm sure you're thinking of people that you know, thinking, oh, so-and-so, if only so-and-so were like that. Well, that's the whole point. Okay, so then we have, I'm going to go back to the right side, okay? Number 7, Netza. Now, you wouldn't think that this would be on the right side of the Tree of Life. I think of, well, actually, the Victory card is actually not there. It's the 7 of anything. The Victory card is somewhere else in the Tree of Life. The Victory card connects. Anyway, it's definitely not there. We're talking about the minor arcana, the 7s, when I say the 7 of anything. But Netza is just that, sometimes that force that you need, the power, the force that you need to push something through, okay? Endurance, okay? Think of the 7 of Pentacles, the ability of that young man to wait and not be tired by waiting, okay? Okay, so we just have 2 more to go. So these are, these last 2 are considered to be the most emotional, believe it or not. Number 9, which is in between Hod and Netza, is Yesed, okay? Now, this really takes a lot. In a word, altruism, okay? Or the ability to step outside of your own shoes, to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and look at things from their perspective. Loyalty, okay? All of these things are really necessary. Well, not necessary, but wouldn't it be nice if everyone were like this, okay? So the very bottom one, the 10th one, is not so, it's more of an action-oriented attribute. It's speech. It's the power to effectively lead, okay? It's real, true leadership. Imagine if we had a leader who had all these qualities, you know? It's the power of speech, the power to communicate, and to effectively lead. And also to take action. It's also a resting place, okay? And the ability to shift into another cycle. It's number 10. So as you can see, the number 10 is very important. Anything that reduces to 10, anything that reduces to 1 is related to the tree of life. That's why the Wheel of Fortune is related to the tree of life, because it's 10. 1 plus 0 is 1. So that's a little quickie on the tree of life. There's so much more to it, but I thought that you might, I'm just going to see if there's any other. So yeah, I was going to mention something about the pillars. So when you look at these pillars, so the pillars on the tree of life, okay, you've seen them. These are the pillars. So remember poor old Solomon, the temple that he built. This was the white pillar. This was the black pillar, okay? And they're meant to be, what did they call them? The 10 points, the active points, the 10 attributes really of God. If you don't mind using that word, or you could say spirit or the divine, or anything like that. And I'm just going to say one last thing about the pillars. I forgot. You may be wondering why the magician and the high priestess are more important. For example, why are they at the first level and not the Hierophant, who's supposed to be the Pope? That is because the Pope, this card really represents conformity, okay, the doctrine of external religion. So when you're using the R word, this is a great card, okay? This is religion. But it's a doctrine without, dare I say, spirit. It's a doctrine without spirit, okay? This guy is constantly trying to consult with the high priestess. She won't speak to him. Why is the magician more important? Why? I'll tell you why. The Hierophant uses a symbol like this. And what this means is, I am the bridge between the astral and the physical. I am God, really. That's what it doesn't give enough credit to God or to spirit. The magician, did he fall off the table? I don't know. Anyway, the magician points up and he points down, as above, so below. And he gives credit to everything that he creates. He gives credit to spirit. If spirit was an ocean, he is a cup of it. He always gives credit to spirit. And the infinity sign over his head is the constant flow of the unmanifest to the manifest. The unmanifest to the manifest. Do we see an infinity sign over the Pope's head? No, we do not. He wouldn't dream this separates people from spirit. Okay, the magician says we are part of it. It's in us. The high priestess is probably the most respected card in the entire deck. And why shouldn't she be? She has knowledge that is beyond words, and she is pure spirit. The poor old empress, the river that runs next to her, has poured down from the high priestess's robe. So after, and I haven't talked about the Fool. We're going to have to talk about him on another tape. But these characters, he's Alpha and Omega. He is the beginning and the end in the continuous cycle as well. There is no greater character and no attribute more important than spirit.